Hello everyone, this video will be a comparison between GPD's Win 5 and ROG's Ally X handhelds. We'll examine how significant the difference in performance is between these two devices when operating at maximum power consumption. First, let's look at the Win 5. It has already been configured to the 35-watt plugged-in mode. And we've also pushed this ROG Ally X to its maximum 35-watt power consumption. Both of these devices are going to be running the same exact game, so let's take a look at their actual performance to see how they truly fare. At the moment, Black Myth Wukong is still in the process of shader compilation. So let's just wait a bit. Okay, we've successfully entered the system. Now let's examine the ROG device's settings. It's currently set to 1080p, and the frame rate cap is set to 120. We've also enabled VSync, and all other settings are left as they are. Let's see how it performs. Everything's enabled. For graphics quality, we're using FSR2 and all other settings are set to high. Now let's take a look at this device. Here, we've similarly set the display to 120 and VSync is also enabled. And the graphics quality is also set to high graphics settings. So both units are now fully prepared and we'll proceed directly with the test. Alright, so I pressed the ROG's button first. Let's see how fast the ROG gets into the system and the Win 5. Let's compare their game loading speeds to see if there's any noticeable difference. But surprisingly, the GPD Win 5 is still faster at loading the game, which suggests its processing speed offers a bit more of an advantage. Once inside, we can see that the GPD Win 5, with high graphics settings at 35 watts, currently delivers a frame rate of 56 to 55 frames per second. For the ROG Ally X, let's observe, it's at 21 frames, which essentially means it's about half the performance, hovering around 21 to 22 frames per second. Over here, we're seeing 49, 50, 48 frames per second, so the fluctuation is quite significant. The Win 5 has pretty large frame rate fluctuation, while this one is basically hovering around 20 frames per second. Now the Win 5 has dropped to 44 frames per second, so it's quite a bit lower. The frame rate on the Win 5 has now dropped to 48, 47. You see its frame rate fluctuation is pretty significant, reaching 45. In contrast, the ROG Ally X remains consistently around 20, 19, or 18 frames per second, exhibiting much smaller fluctuations. Alright, let's keep both machines running for a bit longer. While they're running, let's take a look at their screen displays. The ROG's screen display looks like this, and the Win 5's screen display looks like that. Personally, I feel that the Win 5's color tuning is a little on the grayish side. It looks a bit washed out, or it might be due to the screen protector reducing its light transmittance. Still, when it comes to overall color tuning, this ROG device definitely has a more pleasant display. Alright, let's keep the test running. While it's going, I'm not going to switch camera angles at all. I'll just let both devices run in a single continuous take from start to finish. Both of these devices seem to have initiated this specific test sequence almost simultaneously. The ROG, however, appears to be running just a bit slower. Alright, this particular segment is nearing its completion now. It's quite noticeable that the ROG is experiencing significantly more stuttering during this process. The benchmark score is now available. The overall score achieved was 51, indicating an average of 51 frames per second, with a peak of 59 and a minimum of 44, all while maintaining full high graphics settings. You can all observe these specifications. Next, let's examine the results for the ROG device. It averaged only 20 frames, with a peak of 23 and a minimum of 19. Its frame rate fluctuation is quite small. Unlike the other one, which varied by over 10 frames, this one only shows a 4-frame variance. And here, everything is also set to full high. All other configurations are identical. It's using the new 890M integrated graphics, whereas this one's integrated graphics is the 8060S. The difference, the gap in integrated graphics, is quite significant. Similarly, its graphics card has 16 gigabytes of memory, while this one only has 8, which is also a substantial difference. In terms of overall performance, if you prioritize performance, then I personally suggest the GPD Win 5. The GPD Win 5's performance is incredibly strong, and 35 watts isn't its absolute maximum. It has room to go higher. So, all things considered, if it were set to a higher power, this benchmark score would probably be, significantly better than the ROG. However, 35 watts is already the limit for the ROG Ally X. That's its absolute limit. It currently supports a maximum of 35 watts. So, I conducted a valid benchmark and frame rate test for both devices, staying within what their respective systems can adequately handle. Therefore, with this brief comparison, you all should be able to get a general understanding, and that concludes this comparison video. We'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.